What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the FF Face-Off. I'm your host, Anthony Cervino. Follow me on Twitter at The Real NFL Guru. Follow the show at the FF Face-Off. We can be found at all the top social media and podcast platforms. Remember, if you like anything in this video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, the alert icon, so you can be notified anytime we are live or drop new videos just like this. When we are live, we answer listener questions, people just like you, a lot of Q&A, one of my favorite parts of this job. Today, we're going to talk about my top 5 Dynasty sells for the early portion of the NFL offseason. Let's get right into it with Josh Jacobs. And Josh Jacobs coming off of a monster career year. Played all 17 games, 2,053 total yards, 12 total touchdowns. He ended the year as the RB3 in fantasy points per game at a 19.3 rate. Josh Jacobs did a little bit of everything, right? 123 evaded tackles, second best amongst running backs. He was the RB1 in opportunity share, the RB1 in yards created. Josh Jacobs really flourished in year 1 in Josh McDaniels' offense. This is the first time in his NFL career where he played all 17 games, but he also managed career-high rushing attempts, career-high rushing yards, career-high 4.9 yards per carry, a career or second most reception in his career with 53, career-high 400 receiving yards, and ties a career-high with 12 touchdowns. I'm all in on Josh Jacobs, so why am I going to sell him? He is only 25 years old, and the answer is simple. Josh Jacobs is entering free agency. There's a lot of uncertainty on whether or not the Las Vegas Raiders are going to bring Josh Jacobs back. If they move off of Josh Jacobs, who's to say he goes to another offense that's going to feature him the way Josh McDaniels did last season? Now, if he does stay with the Raiders, that is awesome. But do we really expect Josh Jacobs to replicate what he did this season in year 2 with Josh McDaniels? I get the offensive coordinator or the offensive system and the head coach is going to be the same, but we know we're going to get a new quarterback. What if they bring in a guy like Aaron Rodgers and they throw the football a little bit more? Also, we understand that when a running back or any NFL player for that matter is in a contract year, they're usually going to perform really, really well. And once they get that money, they never really live up to it. Sure, there are outliers, but look at guys like Ezekiel Elliott. Look at guys like Joe Mixon. They get that bag, and they never are really the same guy in the following season. Again, there are outliers, but there's a lot of question marks here with Josh Jacobs entering this offseason. So what do we do with Josh Jacobs? He is a prime sell-high candidate. People are going to be enamored with Josh Jacobs. Of course, look what he did. People believe, well, this was in this running back since he's been in the NFL. Sell high on Josh Jacobs. Now, if you're a contender, maybe you hold on to him. But if you're a rebuilding team, getting the most from a player that just had a monster year is the best thing for you to do for your rebuilding dynasty team. Let's go to my next sell high player, and this guy is Tee Higgins. This is another big name. People are like, Anthony, what the hell are you talking about? Why are we selling on Tee Higgins? Well, Tee Higgins, 17 games played, 75 for 1042 and 7 on 111 targets. Last season, Tee Higgins was the wide receiver 12, right, in 2021. People were having the conversation. They were having the debate on Twitter. Tee Higgins is just as good as Jamar Chase. Guess what? No, he's not. Jamar Chase is elite. Tee Higgins is very, very good, but he's not in the same tier as a guy like Jamar Chase. In fact, Tee Higgins went from the RB12 in a year later, and this year later in 2022. Remember, Jamar Chase missed a couple of games. He still has the same quarterback, the same system, the same everything around him. And Tee Higgins dropped to the wide receiver 26 in fantasy points per game at 13.1 fantasy points per game. That's a really good number for a lot of wide receivers, but not at the draft capital that you are paying to get Tee Higgins. Tee Higgins, very good wide receiver. Again, but separation-wise, a 58th best or worst wide receiver in terms of separation, 1.70. Pretty good yards per target, 9.4, wide receiver 16, wide receiver 25 in yards per route run. But when we look at these elite top 12 receivers, we expect what we got out of like a CeeDee Lamb or a Jamar Chase or even Tee Higgins from last season. There's a lot of differences about Tee Higgins in 2021, 2022. Efficiency down a little bit. The air yards are down. Targets per game, they're kind of down. The biggest reason why I'm kind of selling on Tee Higgins is because there is a rumor that came out just a few days ago, depending on when you're seeing this video, that the Cincinnati Bengals could potentially trade Tee Higgins at the right price. Why would they do that? Well, you got to pay Joe Burrow. You got to pay Jamar Chase. You got to pay your left tackle. You got to pay a lot of guys on this team need to get paid. The window for the Cincinnati Bengals to win a Super Bowl is next season because next offseason, they got to pay a lot of guys. So if the Bengals are smart, you move off of Tee Higgins now. You get the draft capital. You draft wide receivers to replace Tee Higgins now because you're not going to keep Higgins over Jamar Chase. You're going to keep Chase and Burrow together. Also, Tyler Boyd's a free agent. So you move off of Tee Higgins, you get a high draft pick back, and you parlay that into your future wide receivers to replace not only Tee Higgins, but potentially Tyler Boyd as well. So what if Tee Higgins goes to a nice destination and he has a really good quarterback, right? Most quarterbacks aren't going to have the skill set that Joe Burrow has. So more than likely, he's going to get a regression in terms of quarterback play. Furthermore, what if he goes to a team like the New England Patriots? I like Mac Jones more than most. But going from Joe Burrow to Mac Jones is a tremendous step down. And we know the New England Patriots are in the wide receiver market. There's a good chance that not only Tee Higgins takes a downgrade at quarterback, but he could potentially take a significant downgrade. I am selling Tee Higgins while I could still get a high price in return for him. Let's go to my third sell high candidate, and this guy is Austin Ekeler. Austin Ekeler is another guy, another running back coming off of a monster year. He was the overall RB1 of fantasy points per game. He was the RB 15 yards per touch, RB 2 yards created, RB 2 evaded tackles, 18 total touchdowns, 1,637 total yards. He was a monster as a receiver out of the backfield. He can run it. Austin Ekeler can do everything. In fact, Austin Ekeler even managed to stay healthy for all 17 games. So what the hell is the problem with Austin Ekeler? The problem with Austin Ekeler is that he does have some wear and tear on his body. He does have some previous injury concerns, and he is entering his age 28 season, and he's getting a new offensive coordinator named Kellen Moore. What do we know about Kellen Moore? Well, he does a lot of things well in terms of play calling and developing quarterbacks and all of that fun stuff. But what else do we know about Kellen Moore? Kellen Moore used both Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott in the Cowboys' backfield to have one of the most potent rushing attacks in the NFL. You have Austin Ekeler, who's getting a little bit older. What else do they have? They have Josh Kelly. They have a guy named Isaiah Spiller. Didn't really get used in his rookie campaign, but we all love his skill set coming in. He's explosive, and we could see a hell of a lot more of Isaiah Spiller if he takes a step entering year 2 and impresses Kellen Moore. This is another scenario where if you're a contender, I'm probably going to hold on to Austin Ekeler because I do think he has one big year left. But if you're rebuilding, Austin Ekeler is probably not going to help you win a fantasy football championship in 2 or 3 years when you rebuild your team into a contender, which is why you need to move off Austin Ekeler, acquire some draft capitals, maybe some younger players, and start your rebuild the right way. Let's go to another sell high candidate, Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy. We know what Brock Purdy did, right? Like, he led the 49ers all the way to the NFC title game, won a lot of football games. He played significant snaps and started 6 games this season, not including the playoffs. He threw for 1,374 yards, 14 total touchdowns, 13 passing, I believe, and 1 rushing. In those 6 games, 18.1 fantasy points per game. That's not bad. 94.8 true passer rating, 8.1 yards per attempt, even attempted 15 deep throws. We also love the system he's in, right? We all love Kyle Shanahan. They have a lot of nice players like Brandon Ayuk, who might not be there next year, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle. So why are we selling Brock Purdy? The reason is there's a lot of uncertainty in the 49ers quarterback room. We know that Brock Purdy is going to be out an extended period of time this offseason with the injury. He was Mr. Irrelevant. He wasn't supposed to see all this playing time. This second offseason should have been spent preparing and learning and preparing for a big-time leap entering year 2. All of that is going to hit a brick wall because he is now going to spend his offseason recovering from an injury. Now, there's also the Trey Lance case where they spent the high draft capital on Trey Lance, and we know that Trey Lance really didn't impress that much in his small sample size that we did see him on the field. Now with Brock Purdy on the mend, Trey Lance, who was coming off of an injury in his own right, could have an opportunity to work with the first-team offense and impress Kyle Shanahan and once again emerge as a number 1 quarterback in San Francisco. So there's going to be a legitimate quarterback battle between Brock Purdy and Trey Lance, we believe, going into the 2023 season. Here's another monkey wrench. The fact that the 49ers are feeling the pressure. I get that Brock Purdy was knocked out of the championship game and they had to go to Josh Johnson and everything was falling apart for the 49ers on Championship Sunday in their loss to the Eagles. But you can make a big, strong case that the 49ers and Brock Purdy were not beating the Philadelphia Eagles on Championship Sunday. What I saw from Brock Purdy, and it started with the Cowboys, if you look at all the teams Brock Purdy played leading up to Dallas, not the best competition. You can only play who you play, but still, no defenses that are really going to scare you. Dallas, one of the better pass rushers in the NFL. They pressured Purdy. Purdy faced adversity, and he looked very erratic and shaky. In fact, there were 2 interceptions thrown that the Dallas Cowboys defense dropped. Brock Purdy against Philadelphia didn't play a lot, but that was another menacing pass rush that ultimately knocked him out of the football game. So I do have some concerns about Brock Purdy against a legitimate defense and going into year 2. If he does emerge as a starter, is he going to be the same guy or does he take a step back? He was Mr. Irrelevant for a reason, and not everybody gets passed on and ends up like Tom Brady. Let's face the facts. Also, the 49ers could also bring in a legitimate veteran quarterback. What if they call Tom Brady? We know he's retired, but hey, Tom, give it one more go. We really need a championship here. We're feeling the pressure because we keep knocking on the door. We can't get over the hump. I'm selling Brock Purdy because most of the people who play fantasy football are like, oh no, Brock Purdy's going to be there. I like his situation. He did really, really well. Sell Brock Purdy, get what you can for him, because I just don't think his future is bright as a consensus thinks that it is. Let's go to my final sell candidate. That's Dameon Pierce. Dameon Pierce, highly touted rookie last year from the Houston Texans. He started the season off with a bang. However, Dameon Pierce, after starting the season off with a bang, didn't play like the same player. I get it. He played on the Texans, and nothing on offense worked at all for that team. But it is concerning that Dameon Pierce was still the number 6 running back in terms of opportunity share and only finishes the RB20 in fantasy points per game. Granted, he missed a couple of games, only played in 13 games, 1,104 total yards, 5 touchdowns. Pretty good at shaking the tackle. Yards per touch wise, and once again, didn't have a lot of help. But the RB 47 and 4.4 yards per touch, I need to see better than that. I don't think Dameon Pierce is as good as the hype that he got. And granted, he did deserve the hype he had at one time. You go back to week 3 to, I would say, week 10, he finished as an RB2 or better all of those weeks. Again, week 3 to week 10, he was an RB2 or better in all of those football games. In fact, he was an RB1 in weeks 3, 4, and 5. Pump the brakes. He did not have another RB1 week after week 5, hence the regression. If you had Dameon Pierce in the fantasy playoffs, not only did he not make it there, but if you were trying to get into the playoffs as a Dameon Pierce fantasy manager, he didn't give you much. Weeks 11, 12, 13, and 14, he gave you 3.7, 4.6, 12.5, 11.8. That's just not going to get the job done. A lot of people still like Dameon Pierce. They're going to say, well, the Texans are rebuilding. They're going to get a good quarterback, and everything's on the up for Dameon Pierce. I don't think he's as good as advertised. I don't think he's as good as a Dameon Pierce that we saw finish as an RB1 from weeks 3 to 5. I think he's closer to an RB2, a back-end RB2, like he finished in terms of fantasy points per game. I'm out on Dameon Pierce. All right, guys, this was another phenomenal video. We'll be dropping more videos like this all off season long. We'll be going live, doing a live stream podcast all off season long to help you build a dynasty team, build a fantasy team, and go win fantasy football championships. I'm Anthony Cervino. Follow me, follow the show, do all that fun stuff. We'll see you later.